Hi, I am Nicole Cook, a final year student from the UWI Open Campus, and I am reading for my degree in Early Childhood and Family Studies. Today, I will be talking to you about diversity leadership in education, a topic covered under the course EDLM 3006. Why am I discussing diversity leadership in the education system? Well, increased migratory patterns, whether voluntary or forced, have had a profound impact on educational institutions by expanding their linguistic, cultural, religious, and ethnic diversity. Therefore, these cultures must be recognized, provisioned for, and at the same time, assist students and fellow teachers in the institutions to stick to the core of the reasons dozens of eyes will be looking at us yearly. These eyes are our precious students, entrusted to us to nurture and encourage to learn. This therefore leads us back to the business at hand. What is diversity leadership in the education sector? Brown et al. 2017 puts it simply. It is the ability to recognize cultural preferences and modify methods and procedures to benefit students' learning and well-being. Let me unwrap who a diverse and inclusive leader is. According to Lumbe and Coleman 2007, this leader is one who is a technical expert, is proficient in management of people and resources, an effective communicator, one who has the ability to build and sustain positive interpersonal relationships, can draw on the reservoir of his and his team's experience, and the ability to incorporate many viewpoints. Let's open the doors to the Austria's education system and see what we can glean. Now, the foundations of culturally responsive leadership are funneled with three ingredients as depicted by the picture on my slide. These ingredients are leadership theories, practices, and laws and regulations that create equitable schooling environments for our students and their families who are from cultural and ethnic diverse backgrounds. Although there are many different definitions of the term, Brown et al. 2017 wants us to understand diversity leadership in that context. Let me tell you about some common factors I have observed in numerous research pieces. Students are more likely to experience bullying at school because of their color, religion, gender, impairment, sexual orientation, or transgender status that impacts the synergy of diversity and inclusion. In a white dominant school, Blacks are looked down on, and in a Black dominant school, whites are seen as privileged. Brown et al. 2017 continues to state that as long as teacher educators are not well equipped for preparing teachers to become diverse and inclusive, it is doubtful that any adaptive curricula and resource material will directly impact classroom practices. Therefore, the leadership of teacher training institutions concerning linguistic and cultural diversity is one of the most important steps towards improving culturally responsive assessment. Follow me while I unearth the generative theories of interaction to see if we can get some foundation understanding. Remember the three pillars of diversity. We have to look at the theories, the laws and regulations, and the teaching practices. Firstly, according to the theory of generic interactions, overcoming multiple exclusionary dynamics such as self-segregation, communication competence, generalizing and stigmatizing through adaptive cognitive processing and skill development, as well as engaging in positive interactions, are necessary to facilitate inclusion. This inclusion is then created and maintained by culturally relevant sets of organizational practices. Let's look at cultural diversity and inclusive leadership in the country of Austria. According to Herzog, Hunzenberger et al. 2020, Austria is a melting pot of cultures with a population of approximately 9 million in 2020. The largest foreign group are Germans. Interestingly, 24.4% of all students in grade 8 are migrants. On an average, more than 25% of the students had another first language other than German, with some regions clocking little above or below 50%. Let's look at Austria's laws and regulations. With this level of migrant flow, the country instituted a law of acceptance of migrant diversity. Euridis 2019 informs that this law is referred to as Australian Federal Constitution Article number 14. The article allows for migrants to access education, rights to democracy, humanity, openness, and tolerance towards everyone, irrespective of their cultural affiliation, financial background, or social status, among other things. Within 3 months of submitting their asylum request, minor asylum applicants should have access to schooling. Additionally, it states that if it is required to promote minors' access to and participation in the education system, preparatory programs including language lessons should be made available to them. Let me tell you about Austria's practices. In Austria, the government believes that migrants must be integrated into various systems. Coupled with this integration, the government took it a step further by providing all students, irrespective of their cultural affiliation, must be tested in their proficiency of the German language. Exactly 1 year before they enter the school system. If they fail that German test, which some will, students will get linguistic support to last one compulsory year of kindergarten. It gets better. Schools across the country institute a special curriculum to teach students birth languages, and many schools teach in at least one mother tongue. You then may be wondering about the teachers and their proficiency in teaching these languages. Well, in their education reforms since 2017, school principals were given the autonomy to choose their teaching staff. While Austria had a standard curriculum, schools were allowed to rewrite 5 to 10% of that curriculum to suit their needs. How can we address issues surrounding cultural diversity and inclusion in schools? According to Brown et al. 2017, we need to combine teacher-designed observations, get parents to be involved, create friendship and pupil input as addressed many language and will address many language and cultural needs designed for all persons. Brown et al. Also 2017 also identified that Austria implemented 7 core areas for integration. These are language and education, law and values, work and vocation, health and social affairs, sports and leisure, intercultural dialogue, and housing and regional integration. These were implemented in an effort to have equity exist among its nationals. Parents were not left out of the picture, as we know that a strong school system cannot be void of parents' participation and involvement. Austria recognized this as well. According to Subasi Singh et al. 2021, parents, even if they are forced migrants, believe that their children should be inducted in the country's education system. In conclusion, a diverse and inclusive leader must be able to sympathize with everyone who is different and at risk of being marginalized in order to be culturally responsive. That leader must also be able to implement strategies to address the injustices that children in the school system must deal with. In addition to distributed and instructional leadership, a cultural responsive leader makes sure that every voice is heard. He must incorporate students' cultural values and norms of the diverse student body and support teachers' pedagogical practice in response to the needs of the students from various backgrounds. I thank you very much for listening.